So I'm just going to hide my cover, and then I'm just going to work on, we'll say, the latch next. So a couple different problems before we jump into UVs. We need to essentially subdivide this at least one time. So this base mesh and this resulting mesh is a little too different. So what I'm going to do here is just move my subdivision modifier up and then go ahead and just apply 1 to the viewport subdivision and just hit apply. Like that. And then I can go ahead and just add in another subdivision surface modifier, move that up, and then simply make this renderable. We'll just leave it at 1 actually. And then from here, I'll just go straight into my UV editing mode. Go ahead and select this, zoom in, and then select everything. And then here, we could potentially mark a seam back here, mark a seam up front. But what I'm going to do here is just simply UV and then unwrap just to see how it looks. Because it's a pretty, it's a rounded shape. So it's almost like a sphere, like a half sphere, but it does have this underlying part right here, which can make it a little bit complicated. But in this specific case, this is going to turn out just fine for what we need. Next up, we have our paper. So for this one, we're going to need to apply the mirror modifier. So I'm just going to apply that. And then I'm going to jump over to UV editing. And then if we just select everything, and the same thing, this whole edge right here could potentially be just one flat. So I'll just go ahead and try that. So I'll do UV unwrap. So the issue here now is that now we're really leaving a lot of empty space here in our UV square here. And one of the things that we talked about earlier about UV compromises is going to be UV space. So we're leaving a lot of empty space, which means basically just empty texture resolution. The reason why this is bad is because textures take memory, and if you have a lot of empty space, that's a lot of empty space to use in memory. And a pre-render world, we don't necessarily have to worry about that too much. A real-time world, you definitely do. But in this specific case, because we already have these edges right here, it makes sense to just mark another seam to kind of get back that resolution. So I'll go ahead and select these, mark seam, and then select the other side, and then mark seam, and then just going to select everything and then UV unwrap. And now you can see those squares are going to be a lot bigger now, which is what we're looking for. And now if I just simply select everything over here and then do UV 2 grid by shape, and then we can just simply UV pack islands. And you notice how it did a rotation. If I just uncheck that, it'll pack it without actually applying that rotation. So then when we actually run, like a paper texture along here, it'll be essentially all going the same direction. Next up, we have our straps. So here, we have another mirror modifier happening here. So we're going to want to apply that. But in this specific case, we can just have one being mirrored. So I'm just going to go ahead and apply the Z. So make sure we're in object mode for that. And then I'll go ahead and re-add that mirror, and I'll go ahead and move this up. And essentially now this shape right here, and now we can just jump straight to our UV editing. I'll go ahead and zoom in here, and what we can do is just run an edge loop right, or a seam right down this middle. And then we'll just do mark seam, select everything, and then UV unwrap like that. And essentially this is going to work pretty good just because it's, it's two-sided surface. It's pretty organic. And essentially the front back is just a mirror of each other. So we can get away with just marking a seam straight down the middle there. And we'll check out what everything looks like together. That's looking pretty good.